All right, my name is Will Friedman.
I'm Harrison Settle.
And I'm Sam Tipton. Our topic is the death penalty, and we are now open for questions.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about the death penalty. Start off, gentlemen, talk to me about the different ways the death penalty is enforced. What are the methods of the death penalty?
Well, someone could get the death penalty if they kill somebody or commit a treasonous act against America.
Okay, so that's how you could get the death penalty.
And out there.
Well, also like to add to the reasons, there's also death penalties for large-scale drug trafficking. And then about your way about methods, it's electric chair in some states, Tennessee mainly. Lethal injection is the most common. And then it's state by state, so there's different things. Like in Massachusetts, there could be like, if someone doesn't decide, there's like 3 different ways.
Like burning at the stake or?
No, like harmless law.
And they have a history of that. Okay.
How many states allow the death penalty?
30.
Yeah.
And then the other 20 do not. And Kentucky is one of the ones that does, but they haven't used it in over 10 years.
And when, looking back in history, when did they start allowing the death penalty? Did you research how long it's been around?
Death penalty has been used all the way up until 1972, when they took it away because of discriminatory reasons. So I have a case in like 1944 where a 14-year-old was killed by the death penalty.
The first one was in 1827, and it was in Florida.
So Will, you talked about, so you say a 14-year-old was?
Yeah, 14-year-old.
Was put to death? Talk to me about the parameters for imposing the death penalty. I know it varies from state to state, but I'm sure there's probably some continuity between who the death penalty can be enforced upon, who cannot be, assuming that everybody was convicted of a crime that would qualify for the death penalty.
Yeah, well today in Kentucky, for example, because of the 8th Amendment, it does not allow anyone under the age of 18 to actually be killed by the death penalty.
Okay, so no juveniles.
No juveniles, but you can still be sentenced. And all the youngest cases I've researched have all been like 17-year-olds, but none of them have actually been killed until they were the age of 23. So you're just going to be on trial for a while, and but yeah, no one under 18.
So no one under 18. Harrison, Sam, do we know any other groups or people who would not qualify for the death penalty? We said age is one.
Yeah, mental illness is also one that would prevent
Okay.
people from getting death penalty.
Okay, mental illness. Okay, so if they have a diagnosed mental illness,
Yeah.
but yet they've been convicted of a crime that would only qualify for the death penalty, what else?
I don't think we can convict, people who aren't naturalized Americans or citizens of it. I'm not sure.
So this is kind of a hot topic, and very opinions tend to kind of come out. So let's just start there too. What are you for the death penalty, against the death penalty? Everybody can answer.
Yeah, I'm for it morally, pretty much, but economically, I think as we all take this stance, economically, it does cost more, but I have reasons like why it costs more, but we can do that later. But yeah, I think that morally it's okay.
You guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, morally it's okay. Economically, it doesn't really make sense right now. So,
What are some of the reasons for putting someone to death as opposed to lifetime incarceration?
Like why is it morally?
Why would it be better to do that than to just imprison them for life?
Well, I think it's more justice, and justified to do that to someone who deserves it. And if we could I feel like we can make it cheaper in different ways, and that's all I think.
I think that like, for taking a life, you're kind of giving up your right to your life, and by not giving the death penalty, or like any lesser punishment would undermine the value society places on like protecting our lives.
All three of you said morally you believe that it's okay. Can you cite maybe what you, through your research, scripture or how you came to the conclusion?
Yeah. So, first verse is going to be in Romans, and it's kind of a big section, but all the parts are really important. Is it okay if I read it?
Sure.
Okay, everyone must submit to the government, to the governing authorities. For there is no authority except from God, and those that exist are instituted by God. So then the one who resists the authority is opposing God's command, and those who oppose it will bring judgment on themselves. For rulers are not a terror to good conduct, but to bad. Do you want to be unafraid of the authority? Do good, and you will have its approval.
So from scripture supporting it, do you also believe that what you mentioned, the Eighth Amendment, I think the Fifth Amendment, the 11th maybe, jury by trial, do you believe that the Constitution also provides fairness for people who are convicted and sentenced to the death penalty?
Yeah, like the eighth, like you were talking about, it says excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted. The whole thing surrounding that, I think, if you commit one of those like capital crimes, you're giving up some of your rights as an American.
And I- And also cruel and unusual, I think that that punishment fits the crime, so I don't think that would be considered cruel and unusual. Like obviously if you shoplift, you get capital punishment, like that's would be cruel and unusual, but I think if you kill somebody, that it fits the crime.
I mean, isn't the death penalty by definition cruel? I mean, we're killing somebody, right?
I mean, if we're not killing like an innocent person, so no, it's like, I mean,
Are we not?
Huh?
Are we not killing an innocent person?
No, we're not. And like,
Are you fully confident of that, Harrison?
Only less than 1% of the time.
yeah, 1 out of 25 are likely innocent.
Okay.
And, but yeah, obviously if we do that by mistake, that's terrible, and that would be unfortunate, but if like we know for a fact that like that we're killing the guilty, then no, I don't think that's cool and unusual.
How do we safeguard against potentially killing the innocent?
I think hindsight is 20/20. Like the whole Ted Bundy thing, they thought he was innocent for a long time, and
He's kind of a bad dude.
Yeah, like something like that. I'm
Yeah. How does the system that's put in place right now safeguard against the likelihood of somebody who's ultimately found innocent being put to death?
Well, right now, it's just kind of like advances in our justice system. So like,
Okay.
for example, DNA testing,
Okay.
that's gonna provide a more clear answer that he did it.
That's the way you could exonerate somebody.
Mhm.
But what about the process? How long does it take to work through this process?
Around 13 to 16 years on average.
Yeah,
Is that- okay, good.
I see, that's the average time between sentencing and like they're actually executed. But like, I mean, like most of the things we have like it's supposed to be an unbiased jury.
Mhm.
We're supposed to have like attorneys if you can't get one, if you provided one.
Right.
So like those are some things that are playing a part in the trial.
So this, just the general criminal justice system should protect you against being put to death if you're innocent.
Yeah, it should
Okay, Will, you told me how long did these things usually take to play out?
13 to 16 years.
13 to 16. So even if you are given the death penalty today, there's a fairly high likelihood it's going to be a decade and a half
Yep.
before that sentence is imposed upon you.
Mhm.
Why is that? Just because we're backlogged and we lost time?
Usually multiple appeals.
Okay.
So in 1976, when they reinstated the death penalty after taking it away in 72, one of the things they added.
Is that nationally? They took it away nationally?
Nationally, yeah.
Really?
And then so, as they brought it back in 1976, one of the things that they guaranteed was a like right to appeal,
Mhm.
no matter what. And so that we've seen that being used up until now to kind of extend the process.
Is that an automatic process?
Yeah.
Given the death penalty?
Wait, what?
Is that an automatic process? Do you automatically appeal if you get the death penalty?
I mean, unless you want to get killed.
Well, true.
You mentioned, the right to have representation, trial by jury. Did you see any stats or anything, like socioeconomic differences between people who maybe had been sentenced to the death penalty versus those maybe in life? Like, was there anything like you know, with their socioeconomic status or minority status? I mean, were y'all able to find any statistics?
I didn't find many, but I know lots of the people that are on trial for something like that are usually given a, like, you know, a state issued attorney and all that kind of stuff, and that's taxpayer dollars. Cause like, I mean, who's gonna defend a case like that? You know, if they're not like required to.
So, we'll get paid enough.
Well, I guess my question was, if you have a kid at UK who was selling drugs, who sold it to somebody, a friend who died, and they are all of a sudden having a federal trial, do you find that if that kid comes from a family that can pay for a top criminal defense lawyer, do you find a difference in the sentencing between, say, somebody like that and maybe somebody from another different economic class who can't afford the same type of representation? Did you see, and I'm asking, did you just see, were there any statistics on it? You didn't find it?
I didn't research it.
I didn't see any statistics, but that probably would make a difference. If you're like a really good lawyer, you could find like a technicality or get a, you know, or whatever. But no, I don't
But
think.
nothing out there. I was just curious.
Yeah.
So we talked a little bit about economically, the death penalty being the better choice. Is that what you said?
No, well, it actually costs more than keeping someone in jail for their
Okay.
entire life. But I agree. I said I have reasons why.
Yeah, so I'd love to hear
That's
those.
Like the cost, like attorneys and prosecutors charge and get paid a lot more than if it was not the capital punishment. And also all the experts they bring in. In 1985, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that the defense lawyers have a right to a psychiatric evaluation to see if they're crazy or not, or like have mental illness.
Solitary confinement.
Yeah, solitary confinement, like housing, like death row prisoners cost $49,380 to house per year, due to being in isolation, and like general population prisoners cost $24,690. So I think if we just, I don't think that we should keep death penalty prisoners in isolation. They should be in general population, which would bring the cost down. But yeah, that's the biggest one right there, the housing.
And another statistic would be like, a death penalty case costs, all the way to execution was a median cost of $1.26 million per case.
I'm sorry, say that last one again, Will.
So from the beginning of your trial all the way to execution, it's a median cost of $1.2 million.
Who pays that, though?
Taxpayers?
Always?
Yeah.
So better to keep them in prison indefinitely, 3 square meals a day, cable TV, workout facility, all that kind of stuff, rather than put them to death.
Economically, if you care about your tax dollars that much, yes.
Because all the tax dollars are going to the lawyers, is that what we said?
To the government, and the government distributes it out.
You mentioned we haven't had somebody put to death in Kentucky in over 10 years. Did you all see in any of your research how many people we have, I guess, on death row in Kentucky?
In Kentucky, I didn't see that, but I know it's around 2,000 nationally are on death row right now. And for example, since it was reinstated in 76, for example, only executed 99 people since like from 76 to 2013.
I was just wondering, because if it hasn't been 10 years, is there just not anybody, or
Right.
is it just something in the system why we're not doing it?
I don't know
All
the
that.
exact number
That's fine.
for Kentucky.
So let's talk a little bit broader across the nation. Talk to me about if I'm convicted of a capital crime that may require the death penalty. Are there places in the country, and if so, where that I'm more or less likely to receive the death penalty? Maybe where executions happening more often, where are they happening less often? Talk to me about how that goes across the nation.
I think Texas has the most.
Yeah, Texas has accounted for 35% of all executions in the last couple of years.
Okay. To be fair, they're kind of a big state, though, right? So,
Yeah,
Okay. what
big
else we got?
state, but the reasoning was politicians who are tougher on crime are usually more apt to get reelected, and then they don't give the governor as much power to like pull people out of the death penalty system. So
Okay.
that's just one thing that can do that.
So don't commit a capital crime in Texas.
Geographically, usually the southern states are more, you know, quick to the trigger. For example, I mean,
They got firing squads against them?
no, like using it, they're more.
It's an option.
You know,
I think it's an option in the West, but yeah, I think you gotta sign some paperwork for that one, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Ohio's the only like really up north state that has used it in the last 5 years.
Do we know which method they used then?
You know,
Okay, that's fine, I was just curious. Okay, so try not to do a capital crime in the southern states, maybe, you know, tend to do that more up in the northern states.
stay away from the southwest.
Stay away from the southwest.
Stay away from
Yeah.
capital crime.
Yeah, probably a good idea.
That's wise, okay. Talk to me a little bit about, I think in the news very recently, actually, there was a death penalty case that was set, the inmate was set to be executed, and something changed kind of last minute. I know you always see in the movies this dramatic, like, you know, the governor calls at the 11th hour and stays in execution. Are you guys familiar with what's happened in the last week in one particular death penalty case?
Loosely, I don't know like the hardcore like details about it, but
Yeah.
I have a general idea.
Okay. Tell me your general idea, Will.
General idea was that there was an all-white jury and he didn't commit the crime, obviously, which is why he's not on death row anymore. But through multiple appeals and evidence through the extended period of time we talked about, they ended up proving him innocent, so he was released.
Well, that was particularly the case I was thinking about, but that's okay.
What, so we've talked about some of the reasons you cannot be given the death penalty, you know, mental illness or minority age. What are some of the, is the death penalty automatic? And if not, what kind of factors do the judge and the jury get to weigh in deciding whether to award the death penalty versus imprisonment?
Usually it's, in most states, including Kentucky, it has to be a unanimous decision by the jury. And, like, I mean, you obviously aren't gonna get convicted for robbing a gas station or, you know, something like that. But murder, espionage, war crimes, genocide, treason, those are very, very, very serious crimes. And the jury has to unanimously, you know, decide whether to end that person's life or not.
Okay, but within, let's say, murder cases, right, do all of them get the death penalty?
No.
What's the determining factors between who gets the death penalty and who doesn't?
I think that like it was like premeditated kind of thing. Like if you went somewhere like just trying to like rob a gas station and like a robbery went wrong, I think those are seen as less I guess heinous. If you like the guy last year shot the synagogue kind of thing, like that was like a terrible thing they did, and so I think they're trying to give him a capital punishment too. But so like there's like so that's like the biggest difference. Like if you went there premeditating, like I'm going to go do this evil thing, or if like I said, a robbery went bad, or like a manslaughter or something like that.
So you think it's just the prosecutor's judgment as to whether or not they're going, because they have a decision to make when they get the case, it goes to the prosecutor and they have to decide, how am I going to win this case to get the most effective, or effective may not be, but what's
Most
going to be the
appropriate.
best way, you know, for me to get this person punished, whether it's life in prison or death penalty. So do you find that the prosecutors, you know, did you see any research where maybe in Texas they have tougher prosecutors who go for the, I mean, you know, 'cause what's your opinion on them having that power or decision? Maybe that's a better question.
Well, it's the prosecutor and the jury. The jury has to also find that punishment fits the crime. So, but I get what you're saying. The prosecutor has that, which I mean, since the jury has a big part in it, I think that's fine. If it, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, like, my thing with the death penalty is like balancing justice. And so if someone kills someone, obviously the balance is tilted, and if the prosecutor believes that it'll bring more equal balance, then I think he has all the right to serve justice.
Yeah, I was just about to ask that. So kind of going back to your verse, that was a really good verse that you pulled